Hello everyone, welcome back to another video in our series on visualizing data. And in this video, we're actually going to plot for the first time using Altair. So before we get into it, first thing we should do is import Altair. So the way we do that is by saying import Altair as ALT. And again, standard convention here, so this is what we're always going to want to use. And I want to remind you all of our motivating question from the previous video. So we want to kind of solve, how does miles per gallon change based on weight? And like I said, we don't quite have the tools to solve it easily in pandas, but with plotting, it becomes a lot easier to kind of see what's going on. So we have Altair imported. Again, this is one of our main plotting libraries for Math 10. In fact, after kind of this first couple of lectures on plotting, we're going to almost exclusively use Altair. And we make visualizations by kind of specifying which columns in the data set should correspond to kind of different parts of the graphic. So we could have things corresponding to the X and Y axes, colors, shape, etc. So we want to make an Altair plot that has weight along the X-axis, miles per gallon along the Y-axis, and we want to use a scatter plot. So you can imagine for every point in our data set, we're going to find its XY coordinate, kind of weight, comma, miles per gallon, and put a point there. So maybe just as a reminder, here's the data frame I already have imported. This is the miles per gallon data set from Seaborn. So for instance, for this first row, I'd have something like 18, 3,504. So, okay, how can we actually do that? Well, I need to tell Altair where to get the data from. So I say alt.chart. And then in these parentheses, I specify where the data is coming from. So df in this case. To make a scatter plot, we say .mark_circle. And I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to run this code, and you'll see what we get in just a minute. So here it's just a single blue dot. So we get a single blue dot. So what's happening here is we've told Altair where our data lives, but haven't told it how to relate it to parts, or I'll say various parts of the chart. So all it's knowing is that, well, we have this data, but for instance, it doesn't know what should go on the X and Y axes. So that's what we're going to do next. So first, let's just get some data on the X axis. So I can say alt.chart. Again, coming from df, I'm going to do .mark_circle. So that's looking good so far. And then what I'm going to do is do .encode. And again, I want you to think we're encoding various columns to different parts of the chart. So let's do the X coordinate. So X equals, and this is going to correspond to weight. Now, something to keep in mind is I'm going to look at df.columns. And the capitalization and spelling matters a lot. So if I were to misspell or kind of capitalize weight in the wrong way, it wouldn't work. So whatever I type here for X has to match exactly one of these columns. So here there's weight. So this should work. So, okay, this is looking good. What we have here is just we're allowing various X values. So we can see, okay, the lightest cars look like they're just above 1,500 pounds. And the heaviest, they're a little bit above 5,000 pounds. So already this is a really nice way of visualizing the data. Like, sure, we could do some stats on it. We could say what's the max and the min, kind of where they clustered. But it's really cool to see how they're kind of densely packed between this like 1,500 to about 4,000 range. And then we have kind of more of these outliers. So already we can kind of get a lot of information from this picture. But let's take it a step further. So the question also wants us to plot this against miles per gallon. So we're going to do this in exactly the same way. So I said X equals weight, then comma, and I just specify the next thing that I want. So Y, in this case, I want it to be mpg. And this is already really cool, right? Because remember, our initial question was, well, how does weight and miles per gallon how do they correlate? So we can see, as you would expect, as the weight of the car increases, the miles per gallon goes down. And it makes sense, right? If you're kind of driving a much heavier car, of course, it's going to take more gas. And we'll kind of get more information in this chart, but already this is looking really cool. So that takes care of the first part of the first question. Remember, it asks to just plot these X versus Y with weight versus miles per gallon. What we're going to do now is add a color channel that's going to encode the origin value. So if you remember from the previous video, there's 3 origins, so places where the cars come from. We have the US, Japan, and Europe. And what we're going to do now is color each dot representing where it comes from. So I'm going to say again, alt.chart coming from DF. I want it to be mark circle. And then we're going to say dot encode. X is going to be weight. Y is going to be miles per gallon. And now color, this is going to be equal to origin. And again, remember, origin is a column in my data set. So now we can see, okay, it looks like the cars from the US are kind of clustered towards this right part of the graph. So kind of from 3,000 pounds onwards. And then kind of, it looks like a good mix of European and Japanese cars to the left of that. And of course, there's kind of red dots in between, but already we can kind of see in a way, in a way that we couldn't just from looking at the data set, we can kind of glean a lot more information about the cars in this set from looking at this type of visualization. So I don't know about you, but I find this very cool. Last thing I want to do in this video is we're going to add a tooltip to the chart, and it's going to include weight, miles per gallon, origin, model year, and the name of the car. So again, I'm going to look at df.columns just to make sure that I spell everything correctly. And I'm also going to show you the syntax for getting a tooltip. So I'm going to just copy paste this code. All right, great. And then the way it works is we say tooltip equals, and then you pass a list of the columns you want to include in the tooltip. So we want weight, we want miles per gallon. What else? We want origin. We want model year, so that's model underscore year. And lastly, we want the name of the car. So let's see. All right, so right now it looks exactly the same, but now when I hover my mouse over one of the dots, it tells me information about the dot, right? So what does it represent? What row is it from the data? Kind of all of this information that is specified. So here we can see this is a Mazda from 1973, and it gets 18 miles per gallon and weighs just over 2,000 pounds. If we go here, let's see, I'm looking for a Toyota Corolla because most reliable car ever made. Let's see if I can find one. Oh, there was one. So there's a 1974 Toyota Corolla, very reliable car. Honda Civic, Mazda. So, if you're looking for kind of most miles per gallon, you'd look up here. But anyway, I hope this was fun. Again, it's our first intro to visualization. And I hope you saw that you can get a lot of information about a data set just by making this kind of chart. And yeah, in the next video, I'm going to show you the same kind of idea, but using Seaborn and Plotly Express. The point is just to introduce the syntax and show you that they're very similar, and then we'll do more with Altair. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.